NetApp is, of course, a portfolio storage company. This means that we have a multitude of storage products accessible to us, and all of them have their own set of APIs. However, today we're going to focus on two of the portfolio products, in particular, SolidFire and ONTAP. So I'll start with ONTAP. ONTAP's API is what we commonly refer to as ZAPI, the Zephyr API. It relies on XML RPC in order to communicate with the system and enable the access to those, well, storage functions, so that we can write integrations, we can write SDKs against those APIs in order to automate, in order to take advantage, in order to access those storage features and functions that are desirable to us.
On the SolidFire side, our API is JSON RPC. All the same things apply. You can directly manage it, perform the tasks that you need to, and you can do it directly to the API. With both of these products and these frameworks, they serve as building blocks for additional connectivity and capabilities. And that gets into software development kits.
SDKs are an important part of any portfolio. SDKs are what we leverage in order to abstract away the consumption of those APIs. JSON RPC, XML RPC, both of these are somewhat nuanced. The APIs themselves have a lot of different components into them, where we need to understand each individual aspect of the API in order to consume it to its maximum effect. SDKs come into the picture because they abstract that. They make it easier for us to consume our APIs in the language of choice that we have.
So first we'll start with the SolidFire platform. SolidFire provides three core SDKs for Python, Java, C#, .NET. Others potentially in the works, but those are the ones that we've focused on and delivered out to market for our customers and our partners to integrate SolidFire systems into their applications.
The ONTAP side of the house, on the other hand, packages all of our SDKs into one easy-to-find, easy-to-download package, the NetApp Manageability SDK. Inside of the NetApp Manageability SDK, you'll find SDKs for a multitude of languages. This includes Perl, Python, Java, C#/.NET, as well as C and C++ if those happen to be your languages of choice. All of these provide abstractions toward interacting with ZAPI, with the APIs that are available from the ONTAP system. So above just the plain NMSDK integrations, right, those low-level language integrations that provide access to the APIs, we begin to look at additional integrations. These are things like PowerShell, where the NetApp PowerShell toolkit is built on top of our C#/.NET bindings that enable the PowerShell toolkit to quickly and easily consume NetApp APIs. We provide similar functionality for Perl, leveraging the Perl bindings. What this does is it allows the user to consume NetApp APIs, ZAPI, without necessarily having to understand the underlying Perl objects. We simply instantiate the API leveraging common Perl object methods. This is something that's common across all of the SDKs, where we can abstract those APIs into objects for the native language that the SDK is in. This makes it super easy to consume the APIs and reuse them across platforms.
On the SolidFire side, we primarily have PowerShell. It's a fundamental integration for us. We have a nice roadmap with a lot of new things coming, but I'm not allowed to talk about it in this video.
Once we get above the NMSDK level, where we have those low-level language integrations, we can provide additional functionality that is not necessarily at the level of an integration. This would be something like, well, the Perl bindings, where instead of having to interact directly with ZAPI, leveraging something like NA-element and NA-server, we can instead create native Perl or Java objects to execute those APIs. This means that for the application developer, that integration writer, they're able to talk to an object and provide properties and methods to that object that execute ONTAP functions. This is much, much easier than having to integrate directly with a raw SDK or even a raw API.
And for the infrastructure administrators and developers out there, we have PowerShell across the entire portfolio, both for Element OS and for ONTAP. The PowerShell modules leverage the C# SDKs. They're built right on top of that. And so all the functionality and capabilities that are exposed through the APIs, exposed through the SDKs, are leveraged directly into PowerShell. And this is giving that capability to manage the system with a common language that people are accustomed to.
PowerShell is one of the most frequently used integrations that NetApp has. This is because PowerShell itself is a very common language. System administrators are familiar with it from managing other systems, other portfolio products inside of their enterprise. Things like, well, the Microsoft suite. Every Microsoft product for the last several years has PowerShell integration. So what we find is that many administrators inside of our customers, inside of our own organizations, are already familiar with PowerShell. So it's a simple and powerful way to execute storage tasks, to automate storage tasks, without necessarily having to understand any of the underlying complexities.
Yeah, and I think one of the more important things about PowerShell, and I know we're really focusing a lot of energy here, is that it has the lowest barrier to entry to be able to go in, control, and manage the entire NetApp portfolio.
Absolutely. So finally, inside of the ONTAP portfolio, we have a couple of additional integrations that make things interesting. The first one of these that we want to talk about is API services, part of the OnCommand suite. API services provides a RESTful with JSON interface to execute ONTAP automation tasks. What this means is that if your application, if your developers, if your infrastructure relies on REST integration, well, now you can take advantage of that. This means that it is super easy for any application, any language to take advantage of, well, what's happening inside of that storage enterprise. Additionally, across the NetApp portfolio, we have WFA, what is commonly referred to as workflow automation. Workflow automation leverages the Perl integration and PowerShell integration across the NetApp portfolio to provide an automation framework. So what does that automation framework mean? It means that anybody who understands how to create a GUI-based automation script can leverage commands to execute tasks. So instead of having to be a Perl expert or a PowerShell expert, instead I can go in and I can select a particular command, a task, and say, I want to create a volume. Supply the values that I needed for that, and WFA will execute that for me. I don't have to necessarily understand the new sfvol or new ncvol commandlets inside of PowerShell.
On the SolidFire side, we can integrate with WFA through our PowerShell integration. In fact, we already have engineers that have gone out and done some initial work on that space. This means that we have an opportunity to take the PowerShell integration, leverage it in WFA, or with other integrations that are out in market.
WFA also enables the storage administrator to create automation workflows that can themselves be consumed as, well, a REST API endpoint. This means that if my organization's best practices when I create a new volume involve setting multiple volume settings, again, regardless of the storage product underneath it, we can then empower end users to execute that workflow, to take my job, my set of manual tasks, and have them executed at any point in time. So WFA is a very powerful portion of the portfolio that enables not just interaction with APIs and SDKs, but interaction with automation at a high level through an API-based interface. Finally, we want to talk about the rest of the OnCommand suite. The OnCommand suite is a portfolio of management tools for the ONTAP system. It also has its own set of APIs and SDKs that are available for it. So for example, with OnCommand Performance Manager, where we collect performance statistics from ONTAP systems, we have a set of APIs that allow our integrators, our customers, to query for those performance metrics without having to understand what's happening at the ONTAP level. Likewise, they can take advantage of things like OnCommand Snap Center. Snap Center is a great tool for enabling coordinated snapshots across your portfolio of storage products and integrations and applications while providing programmatic access using things like PowerShell. So that now, as that application administrator, that SQL Server administrator, I can leverage the same tool set that I'm familiar with in order to coordinate not just snapshots, but taking backups and restoring from those backups as well.
We'd be remiss if we didn't also talk about SolidFire's ActiveIQ product. It provides monitoring for SolidFire systems. At present, there is no externally available API for consumption from customers and partners.
In summary, the ONTAP SDKs are available from the My Support website. Any customer with an active support contract can go and download the NM SDK and can begin writing integrations and taking advantage of those APIs in order to accomplish the tasks that they need to take advantage of. Additionally, tools like WFA and the PowerShell toolkit are available from My Support as well. This enables simple automation against any of the ONTAP portfolio products.
On the SolidFire side, we maintain all of our SDKs and integrations like PowerShell directly on GitHub at github.com/solidfire.
On behalf of Josh and myself and the rest of the Barkeeps, we'd like to thank you for joining us for this edition of Bartending.
You can join us at the pub by visiting us at netapp.io. We have a Slack team where we have ongoing conversations about all the technologies we discussed today at netapp.io/Slack, and you can follow us on Twitter at NetAppPub.